All right, everybody. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. I've seen a lot of new faces, which is really exciting. I was reminded that the last meetup had to get canceled because there was fear of like a potential hurricane or something. So glad that nothing happened and that you guys all came this time. Today, really cool. We have two awesome presentations for you guys to take in and digest, and then we'll just hang out. We're not planning a big interactive group talk this time. We'll just hang out and meet each other. A lot of new people, which will be great. After the presentation, we'll go around in the room and introduce each other because, like I said, there's a bunch of new people. So we'll just introduce ourselves and say kind of like why we're in the group, what brought us here, why we're interested in music tech, and we'll go from there. I'm just going to turn it over to Julian, first of all, from Jam On, and take it away.
All right, so my name is Julian Ferruti. I've been in Austin for about 5 years. My background is software development, and I listen to a lot of music. I love music. I've been, so to speak, collecting it for a long time. Not collecting in the sense of vinyls or the material property per se, but just the collection in my library, right? Which nowadays, fits on your phone, so that's pretty cool. And I switched to Mac maybe 2 years ago, and that kind of funneled me down the path of making a couple of apps. This is my second one. My first one was also music related. I can show it to you if you're interested, but it doesn't do too much. It was basically to learn iOS. I'm not a professional iOS developer. This is a side project for me, and I've been working on it for several months, probably since February when my first app released. So maybe 15, 20 hours a week up until now. And Jam On is a music player. It also does discovery, and it's now in beta. So if you have an iPhone, if you like music, if you play your own, meaning not Spotify or Apple Music, I encourage you to try it out and see what you think. I'll do a demo, and I have a few slides, but nothing fancy. And most importantly, if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, tell me. I've done it all myself, so if you don't like the colors, if you think the background sucks, if you think the icon sucks, just tell me, because I want to make sure that I can improve upon what I've done. Basically, mostly on my own in a vacuum, right? So, and that's not always the best. So I have. Let's see, so my first app, I had like 25 beta users, which were mostly family and friends, which is really the worst thing to do because they don't know what's going on, right? And their opinion is obviously biased because you're great and they can't tell you no, right? So for this app, actually, I've only used paid advertising and things like that to kind of ramp up beta users. So like through StumbleUpon or Google AdWords and stuff like that. So I have about 55, which is a pretty low number, but over the last 6 weeks, I've been able to do a lot of improvements based on the great feedback that I received from these folks, which are everywhere. I have a lot of people in the UK, and I don't know where everybody is, but just based on their email address, sometimes you can tell, right? So let's get down to it. Why did I want to build a music app? Well, besides the fact that I wanted to learn more iOS and ignore my family for another 6 months every night and weekend, I wanted to build a better music player and also add recommendations and discovery. So the second part, which is the recommendation and discovery, I think is important because if you just build a music app, there's hundreds, if not thousands of them out there, and you have to have something that differentiates it, which is the recommendation and discovery, I think, in my case. So, and why did I want to build a better music app or player is because all the ones I've tried suck. Or there's some of them are decent, but they don't do everything that I want to do. And a big part of it is because I subscribe to iTunes Match, right? So all my libraries on my phone, whether it's stored in the cloud or not. So I have 1,000 albums or so in my library on my phone, and that makes it difficult to navigate on some of the apps. And I was gonna maybe do a little bit of tour of some of the other ones I've tried, but we'll see how that works. So what I've done in these slides is kind of like a comparison of all the apps that are, not all, but the ones I've tried that are available on iOS that play music in the context of playing music that is in your library, not playing music through a streaming service or whatever. So that's kind of a niche use case or niche market, right? So first off, I made the slides before the hurricane, and Apple Music didn't release or was not out back then, right? About a month ago. I have this slide, which is about the old music app, and I broke down each slide and kind of what's good about it and what's not, in my opinion, and feel free to disagree. So Apple, the music app on the iOS is good because it comes with iOS, right? But up until recently, it was getting pretty old and decrepit, and I didn't like it, mainly because it doesn't have a mini player, and I can talk about what that means in a second. Basically, it means that you have a bar somewhere around the screen that always shows what you're playing, so that regardless of where you are in the app, you can always press play and pause, right? So that's what's important to me. And then I never liked how they organized the artist view in the music app, because if you have an artist with 5 albums and you press play on the first song, it'll play all 5 albums, where you might want to just play one, right? And there's no kind of opt-out of that. So I didn't really like that. Now this is about the new music app, which has a new awesome logo. Still, it comes with iOS, so that's fine, it's free. And it does incorporate the mini player that every other music app has, so that's cool. But, and I don't know if you've either tried it out or have been paying attention and kind of customer sentiment around the new music app, but a lot of people don't like it, right? Especially people like me, and I'll tell you why. They've added, obviously, the streaming service to compete with Spotify, right? And they've added some social feature with Connect. And all that takes real estate in the app, which kind of puts the functionality that was in the app before in a tiny little corner of the app. So all of the functionality that the app used to do is now still there, but the navigation is horrible because it's kind of tucked into a corner. And I can, and if anybody has any comments on anything I say or want to ask questions, feel free to interrupt, it's fine. There's no rules. So let me see if this works. I'll swipe over here. There you go. So this is the main screen on the new Apple Music app. So the thing that I don't like at all about this is, first of all, everything is around this My Music thing at the bottom left. For me, as a person that only listens to music in its my own library. The other thing is, if you want to switch from an artist view to an album view to a song view to a genres view, the only way to do that is to tap on here, which is fine when you're at the top of the screen, but if you go down here and go all the way to Z, right, and you want to change your view to, in this case, I don't know where we are, right? Well, I know we're album view. If I want to switch back to songs view, for example, I have to scroll all the way back to the top and get back to here and kind of switch to what I want. And that, to me, that's just really poor user experience, right? And then the rest of the tab bar at the bottom kind of takes you to different places, which personally I'm not interested in. Now, one of the nice things, and I have to be honest, there are some nice things about this update, is the stuff at the top, which is all your recently added stuff is at the top, always, which is really nice, right? Because when I buy something, which I'm probably a minority as a music buyer these days, right? I like to be able to get to it fast because I forget what I bought, but I still want to listen to it because I haven't ran through it a bunch of times, right? So let me go back to here, see if this works. All right, and the bottom line, it just tries to do too much. So the thing is, from a design perspective, they had no choice but to do that, right? To make all this stuff go into one app, because having multiple apps was absolutely not an option, and that's completely understandable, right, from a development and design perspective and user experience. So, let's see. The next one I tried is called Cartoons, and it's got a pretty simple interface, but it misses some, and it's actually pretty pricey. It does have a good use of gestures, like it's all swipe and tab based, right? There's really no menu navigation, so it's pretty cool that way. It's $5, which these days is pretty high. And it doesn't have that menu player I was talking about. It doesn't support search, so you can't search for stuff, and it doesn't have scrubbing, which for some people is important. And then there's Écoute, which is $2. It does have that menu player that I like, and it does have integration with Last.fm in terms of setting like you can love or unlove a song, or you can share it with people and stuff like that. But it's really hard to navigate if you have a large library, and so let's see if we can try that. So for example, you can see at the top I have 1,001 albums. I had a party because I crossed that 1,000 album threshold a while back, but because it uses what's called collection view, which is all these squares rather than a table with an index table on the side, if I want to get to Z, my only option is to scroll, and I keep scrolling. I can keep scrolling forever until I get to the bottom. So for me, that's a no-go right there, right? So let me go back here. And then...
You got some good music though.
Thanks. My kids think I have a really weird taste. All right. And then the last one I tried was Groove, and I deleted it from my phone just before the presentation so I could reinstall it so I could show you what it does. But apparently it's not in the App Store anymore, so that whole concept is gone. But it's free, which is cool. It has a menu player. It has a lot with playlisting, which for me doesn't really do much, but for a lot of people it does. And again, it's kind of hard to navigate for large libraries, and it does try to do a little bit too much, in my opinion. The thing that I wanted to show you about this app is that the first thing it does when you download it is go through your library. So for me, that took like 3 minutes. You could just sit there and do nothing. You get no value out of the app for 3 minutes, and I gave up, right? I didn't even go further than that, right? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. This thing is a little bit slow. It's because there's no cables. It's all Wi-Fi. All right. So if you want to kind of put those ones I try and compare them, there's a built-in one. It goes from $5 to $2 to free. In terms of downloads, I have no idea. In terms of Apple's music app, but probably in the 800 million range or so, because it's on every iPhone there is, right? In terms of cartoons, it's got 750,000 downloads. That's pretty big. Écoute has like 110,000, and I found those. I don't know how accurate those are, but there are estimated from, I don't remember what website, and then Groove is free and obviously has the most downloads with 1.5 million, but not anymore because it's not in the App Store. So what I wanted to do is, number one, make a music player app that works for me, right? And hopefully there's people that have similar concerns or needs that I have, and it would appeal to them as well, right? And let's see. All right. So what I did is take some of the best out of each one that I tried and try to incorporate it into one as the first goal. And then we'll talk about discovery a little bit later. So it has mini player, it integrates with Last.fm in a couple of ways. Number one, you can scrabble to your Last.fm account, so keep track of what you played and go back to it later. See who is it that you actually listen to the most, right? And it works well. The way this design works well with large libraries, and it's tested by me, I guess, on that front. The interface is hopefully simple. So in terms of discovery, for years, the way I've discovered music, and I'm kind of an introvert, the way I've tried to discover new music is go to Amazon.com and go to an album that I like, and scroll down to people who bought this also bought that, and then kind of scroll through that and see what's going on and try it out. And there's obviously better ways to do that, right? And so we'll get into that. But Discover, anybody familiar with Discover? No? Okay, so maybe I should just show you guys what it does. It's been out for a long time, so the interface is kind of outdated. So this is the, sorry. All right, so this is Discover. So you can type in the name of an artist. So give me an artist, somebody.
D'Angelo?
Like that?
Without the E.
This one, like that?
Good choice.
The
Apostrophe.
Angelo.
Sorry.
You chose the hardest.
I'm sorry.
Boom, we got it.
There you go.
So here's what it does. It shows you, it's kind of a cool visualization of other artists that are similar to D'Angelo. So I only know 2, but actually 3. So what you can do now that you got this view is keep on going. So which one should I click on? Anybody?
Surprise.
Oops. No, that's not enough. Okay, so if I click on that, then it expands the map, and you can kind of create this whole map of different things. And then if you want to pick one, I'll pick this one. Then, no, that's not what I want. Come on. Okay, so once you are interested in an artist that you see on the screen, you can get to more details. So you can look at the biography. You can look at what songs, top songs for that artist, and top albums. And they have also videos, blogs, reviews, and links to Last.fm, SoundCloud, Spotify, and Hype Machine. Some have like MySpace, which I don't know if it's still running, but and then, oops, I'll try that again.
Do you happen to know how they get the search?
Yeah, so they're integrated, I think, with Last.fm or Echo Nest. Are you guys familiar with Echo Nest? So Echo Nest is a company out of Boston that does a lot of big data stuff with music, and they have an API, right? So you can, and I've played with it in my app. You can query a bunch of different things, right? You can get artist images, you can get biographies, you can get links, you can get a bunch of stuff. And Similar Artist is another one, which is what this uses, right? And Last.fm has the same thing. Spotify actually bought Echo Nest in 2014 or 2013, I can't remember. I don't know what they're doing these days, but I've played with both Echo Nest and Last.fm in my app and kind of picked which one was faster in terms of response, right, from the server. So this is pretty cool, but if I go back to, I don't know if I can go back, but okay, if I go back to the home screen, the thing that isn't that great about this app is that you have to type a name. It sounds silly, but why not have an app that knows what you like? I mean, right? You play music on your phone. If it knew what you liked, then it could just present artists without having you to type the name, and then you're more likely to find stuff that you don't know, right? So that's something that I did in my app. So let's not do that. Okay. All right, so let's go into demo mode here, and I'm going to start the app. which is now playing music. So at the bottom you can see that mini player I was talking about. It's always there, regardless of what screen you're on. It disappears when there's nothing playing, and it comes back when something starts again. And let's see. So right now I'm in artist view. What I've done is, and so there's that hamburger button on the left, which is kind of a weird name for a button, but I'll go to that in a minute. But just as a pure music player, this thing has like two or three screens. So right now I'm in artist mode. I can press the filter icon and drop down a menu to go to songs or playlists or artists. I didn't do genres, but it'd be like half a day of work to do it. I didn't feel the need, but if somebody thinks that I should, let me know.
You should.
I should? All right.
I think
Yep.
so.
Then I will.
Great. I like that.
All right, so if I went, okay, so I'm already on artist. So if I'm in artist mode, and I pick something that has an artist that has multiple albums, then I get to a list of albums, which is pretty simple and intuitive. There's no back button anywhere in my app. All you do is swipe left, okay? Which allows me to have that menu button at the top always at the same time, right? Because I don't have a back button. If I press on an artist that has only one album, then it just goes directly to that album. So it skips a step, right? And this mini player expands into a full screen player, which gives you kind of a more granular control, like with shuffle and skip and repeat and whatever and scrub. So I can scrub. Maybe. Yeah. So I can scrub. So as the music player itself, that's it. It's very simple, right? Anybody dislike the dark kind of color theme? No?
Is there an option to customize it?
No, not right now. But
There could be.
there could be. So in one of my really early versions, I did something that was based on location with the GPS, so that after sundown it goes to dark mode, and during the day it's in light mode. But I didn't put it in. It works, but I didn't put it in. But so either I could do a manual setting where you can change that. So I could have a theme that's more like this, right? Which would work just fine. And then the dark, and switch between the two. So that's definitely something I could do.
Have you ever thought about doing a different color palette for branding purposes? Because right now it looks very similar to Spotify. Which
It does, actually. It does, and what I said earlier is that I took some kind of features or design element from different apps and put it all together. So you'll kind of see, and if I press this, that's pretty much what Spotify does, right? But it works. I mean, it's not patented or anything, right? It's just design patent, right? So what do you mean by branding stuff? So it's more recognizable?
Yeah. I don't know, Spotify has a very distinct color palette. It's
Sure.
green and black.
Right.
Everybody might
So this has two colors. It's got the black and kind of different shades of black, and then the blue, which is on that sidebar, which to me on TV looks more like white, but it's blue. And I'm colorblind too, so that doesn't help. Yes.
Does the player the at the bottom, does that change color based on the type of album that's in?
Yeah, it does. It's similar to, let's see. So the header where the album cover is has that blurred image, which is a piece of the album art. It does the same thing for the mini player. So right now it's really matches that cover, and then in the full screen player it's the same thing, right? You can see that it matches, and for some covers it looks really cool, and some more like bland. So I tried to make it so that it would work with, like the Beatles' White Album is completely white, right? And so it had to work with that. So the white letters on the white screen wouldn't necessarily work, so I had to play with that. Yeah.
Maybe this was mentioned before. Do you have to worry about royalties?
No.
How does that work?
So it uses, so first of all, there's hundreds of apps like this out there, right? So I'm assuming, which could make an ass of me, that it's fine. So basically it uses the media library that the user has on his phone, right? So whatever you sync to iTunes is what's there and what I can see with my app.
So this is already with the music that I have on my iTunes?
Correct.
So
if I go,
but once you discover new music, you would have to purchase it on iTunes?
Yeah.
And then it would show back up
Yeah.
here? Okay.
exactly.
That makes sense, that's fine.
Do you swipe up to get that whole screen of the album?
So there's actually 3 ways. You can tap, which is the only one I had at first, but then I added swipe, and then I added pan, which is kind of cool. So let's go into like the different things that it does. So if you're familiar with Last.fm, you can scrubble your tracks to the Last.fm account. If I go to settings, you'll see that I have my Last.fm account entered, and again, there's no back button, so I can swipe, and then I enabled scrubble, so whenever it plays a track, it sends that track to Last.fm, but it also stores it on the phone, so I can use that information for the recommendation and discovery. It also does silly stuff like shake to shuffle. So if you're in the song screen, if you shake, it'll just play a song. If you're in the album view, it'll just play shuffle an album or whatever, things like that. And then a couple of the minor things that it does is Apple creates smart playlists for you right off the bat, right? That kind of get in the way, at least for me. So I have a setting to just hide those away, as well as hide music videos, which I'm not interested in either. So you can really kind of narrow down to what you're interested in.
What happens if you don't hide those?
They'll be part of the list.
Okay.
Yeah. So and actually, that's a good segue into what I was gonna. So the playlist screen. What I did there is, which actually Apple now has on their app, which is the tiled album art when there's multiple albums in your playlist. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's in there, right? And if it's all songs from one album, then it just shows you one. So let's go into Discover, which is the cool part. Actually, let's just look at this activity. So because the app stores what you play as it goes on, you can tell, like, hey, I've played these last songs, and my top artist and it saves that stuff for 7 days. So my top artist for the last 7 days is Radiohead, next is Stevie Ray Vaughan, next is Vector Wooten, then 311 and Ween. And then you can see kind of basically what you've played. And I've actually found that useful in a way, because sometimes I'll tap on something in the app and I'll start a song when I was actually listening to something earlier, and I don't know which one was it, so I can go to here and say, oh, that was the last song I played, and I can just go to the next one. One thing I'm actually considering adding, which now is in the Apple Music app, is the queuing mechanism, so you can queue stuff. But that's probably a little bit of work that I don't want to do at this point. Yes.
You said it keeps it for 7 days, right?
Yeah.
Why did you cut it off at 7 days? Was it because of the Last.fm integrations? You can go back and
No, it's just because I don't want to store too much data on the phone itself. It persists between app launches, right? And also, I don't know that it really matters too much. Like, you want to know what you played for last year? You do?
Well, I mean, I always like to revisit some old Christmas favorites. So,
So talking about Christmas, actually, I had a feature in mind about Christmas, which was in the setting screen, hide all my Christmas music unless it's Christmas. But I haven't done that either.
Pick up some Arbor Day.
All right, so let's look at Explore. So that's kind of my basic take on recommendation, and the way it works is, first it keeps your recently added albums at the top, which is kind of similar to what the Apple Music app has now. So if I buy something, and actually in the Apple Music app, things used to only stay in the recently added for 2 weeks, which for me was not enough. So in this, if you buy something, it'll show up in this recently added portion of the app, and it'll stay there for 3 months, which right now is hard coded, but I could change that if it's too long. It might be too long actually. I don't know, maybe a month. Any idea on that?
Month seems appropriate.
A month?
Test that. User test.
Test it.
All right. So the other two things that it does, which is pretty basic, and I recognize that, is it looks at the albums that you've played and it tries to find albums that are similar to that in your library. So if you think back to the activity screen I showed earlier, I was playing Radiohead and I was playing Stevie Ray Vaughan, and it shows me Stevie Ray Vaughan here, which it shouldn't. And I was playing Ween, so it recommended Sublime and King Missile. And then it recommended Atoms for Peace because I was playing Radiohead. And the bottom part doesn't show anything, but it should. And the bottom part is, if you're playing an artist that you have multiple albums for, then it'll show you another album. So like if you're on a Nirvana kick, then you can keep playing your Nirvana, and it'll actually pick albums that have less play counts than others, so that it'll kind of force you to listen to stuff that you don't usually listen to. Right? Yes?
What recommendation are you using?
I made my own.
Well, this is all from stuff that's on your phone, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's just recommendations from within your library, right? So you can kind of stay on a different track, or the same tracks. I was playing some funk, and I was showing the meters. I can go play the meters, right? And just kind of keep down that track, right? So right now there is no other album by the artist that I'm currently playing, so it's not showing anything. And then also a minor detail, but because I subscribe to iTunes Match, it shows me the cloud icon, which is, this album is not stored locally, so you're going to use data or Wi-Fi and spend money, right? So I might want to avoid that if I'm in the car, for example, right? And then let's go to Discover, which is kind of the cool part of the app. So you can search for stuff just like we could in the Discover app I showed earlier. And you can, so if you find something you like, so let's say we go back to Mr. Andrew.
Does this connect to the new Apple Music, so that if you do have a subscription with Apple Music,
No, so actually,
you can just search their entire thing?
no.
Okay,
And I don't know that there's an API for that just yet.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So I searched for D'Angelo, and if I read the biography, which in this case there is none, and it pulls those from Last.fm or I don't remember where else. But if I really like what I see, then I can stash that artist. And if I go back, then D'Angelo is not in my stash. So if somebody at a party told me about this guy, and I just looked it up in my app, and I just put it there so I can go back home and look at it later, that's pretty useful. And what the other thing it does is it recommends you artists that are not in your library based on what is in your library that you just played. So that's kind of the section in the middle, the like recent artists. So I played Samande, so it recommends me Mandrill, and I played Radiohead, so it recommends me Tom York. And same thing for top artists. So if I went to Tom York, then I can read the biography, which is the same thing that the Discover app did. And I can look at what songs are there, and I can preview them, right? So if I want to preview something, it'll stop the music that's playing and it'll play that for 30 seconds. And then I can pause it, and I can, if I really like it, I can go to iTunes and buy it. And so it's, in my opinion, pretty cool. So let's go back to here. And then same thing, it has access to the links for the artist, either website or Twitter page or whatever. And then you can also look at artists that are similar to Tom York, kind of go another step down the chain, and you can see that there's a bunch of stuff, and you can either stash it or ditch it. So if there's things you know you don't like, you can just ditch it, and it won't show it to you again, right?
Are those artists that are similar to the one you're listening, but not within your library?
Correct. Yeah, unless there's a bug in my app, in which case it would show you things you already know about. Right? So there's actually some cases where that doesn't work. And so, and that's when the spelling is different between what's like in Last.fm, whether it's a and or an ampersand, for example, is a pretty typical case. Or where you know, some minor spelling differences will push it to not know that it's there, right? So let me start playing this again. Again, there's no back button, so I have to swipe, but it's not swiping. But actually, okay. All right. I think we've kind of toured everything there is to tour. So let's go back here. All right. So I think that's a pretty good tour of the app. Of what it does and how it works. So any kind of points of feedback that you want to give me so I can make it even more awesome? Yes?
It's not really a point of feedback, but how do you make money with it? If
Oh.
you want to make money.
Yeah. So actually, if you go back to what I was showing earlier, where there was the price point for all the other apps that I kind of compete with, they're between $3 and $5. And okay, so the music player itself is between $0 and $5, and the Discover is, I think that's wrong. I think it's $2.99, not $3.99. So if I combine all this functionality into one app, my plan is to charge either $2.99 or $3.99. So that's one revenue stream, and then if you do what I did earlier, which is preview a song and then go to iTunes Store and buy it, I get 7% of that sale from Apple.
Discover's $4.99.
Okay. Wow.
So that's $1. Yes, you got it.
Yeah. So I think normally there's room for one more because at least I think it's differentiated. And I think the price point of $3.99, I'm debating between $2.99 and $3.99, I don't know. I sent out a survey to all my beta users. Out of 55, only one responded. And they agreed that they should pay $3.99 for it. So that completely validates my assumption. Yes?
How do you plan on marketing it?
So is my weak point at this time, because I'm a developer, a technical guy. So we'll see. I talked to a PR firm yesterday, which could help. Getting coverage somewhere, somehow, is probably the key to it, right? Because what I've learned from my first app is that if you just throw it out there amongst the 2,200,000 plus apps out there, it's not going to do anything, right?
Two things on the marketing front. One is you have a very, very niche app.
I do.
So I would really get to know the market that regularly buys music and has their entire library. There might be some in here. Like I would take a quick poll and talk to them because that's exactly your like sweet spot. I'm sure that the people who have all of their music will have no problem paying but within the price point that you're talking about. I'm sure that's very comfortable for them, and it seems like you perfected the user experience for that set of people. So
Yeah,
I think that's like that is like the key to
Yep.
your marketing play.
Agreed.
Second point is I think the name may need some tweaking because if I hear jam on, there's a lot of music apps now where people are jamming internationally to come up with songs and videos, and I wouldn't think music discovery and better ways to play my library.
Sure. Yeah, the name is a hard one to do. Just
It
like
might be
the
too late
icon
if you
is,
already
right?
have it out there and people are already familiar with it. Maybe it's too late to change it.
No, I seriously don't think so because with 50 users, I mean, I could piss them off.
I'd second on that. Actually, jam has a pretty significant connotation in my world anyway. It's being more collaborative.
So that feedback would apply to Jam Feed as well.
Jam feed as well.
Except feed saves them a
The
little
feed
bit.
part.
Feed saves
of
them,
it.
saves them a little bit, yeah. Yes.
Is there any APIs with Spotify? So that I know you were probably on the same topic with me. Like that'd be so cool.
So Spotify has a very limited API, as far as I know.
But API with either music, with Apple Music or Spotify, where you can link in that subscription and then they're able to use your playlist on that. That would be, I think, would be, if they come out with that, it'd be huge.
Yeah. So the marketing, to go back to your question, is still a big question mark for me. I have a full-time job, I have a family, I have this side project. It's a lot of work. Marketing is a lot of work. Just like coding is a lot of work, but I can switch gears now, but probably.
Right, because you presented the presentation to us and I understand fully like why it's a good app, but
Yeah.
how do you condense that
Sure.
for someone who isn't going to?
Target very, like it's very specific what you're doing, so make sure you target those people.
Yeah, so if I come back in 6 months to a year and we can kind of revisit numbers, see what happened.
Marketing co-founder.
So actually, that is exactly what is in my head. And thank you for bringing that up. I probably need to find a marketing-focused co-founder that can just do that stuff, and for some percentage of the sales or whatever. I don't know yet, but that's probably my best option, actually. So thank you for answering the question. Yes.
You mentioned one of your gripes about the other players was they didn't handle large volumes of songs well. What are you doing to handle that better? I mean, if you've got a couple thousand songs, are you doing anything special from a technical standpoint to make sure that they come up fast?
It's just really the browsing that's faster because it's all, and that's a technical term, but table-based. It's just rows with an index on the right,
Right.
and you can get from A to Z in one tap, right? So that's really the approach compared to what I was showing earlier with Écoute, which is a picture of each album, and there's 2 or 3 by row, and you have to scroll and keep scrolling, right?
Okay.
So, quick poll. Thank you. So, who has an iPhone in this room? Who has music on their iPhone? And who listens to music, or that music on their iPhone a lot? All right. So those people that are kind of in that market, I guess, would you be willing to pay some money for something like that, first off? So all the hands went down, but put your hand up. If you want to pay money for this, keep your hand up and we'll see. So there's a few, right? And that's fine because statistically speaking, there's a lot of people in the world, so that's fine. And the number of beta users I was able to grab for the little amount of money I spent is kind of the same ratio. And let's see. There was another question that you were talking about earlier with respect to marketing that I should pull about, but I don't remember. I'm too busy.
How many people have playlists?
With your beta users, did you sign them all up for free, or did they?
Yeah, so I sign them up for free, and I find them through, like I said at the very beginning, through paid ads. And I click to, what is it, CTC, whatever that is.
Stand at that door and don't let anybody out until they sign up.
So that's actually, we're skipped. So that's your first call to action is sign up for the beta. So you can go to my website, you can sign up for the beta, and I'll get an email, and I'll put you on my list, and you'll be able to download the app for free. And on top of that, when it releases, you'll get a promo code to get it for free. So all your hard work will not go to waste. So yes.
The assumption is just for like for iPhone, right? Like say if I had an iPad and I wanted to play with it, is it?
So you can play on an iPad, but it's gonna look like crap because all iPhone apps that are only made for iPhone that run an iPad look like shit.
Well, and the new iPods came out last week, so.
So the iPod Touch you can still use it with that.
Okay.
So yes, and that actually is another market that's probably worth, because they came out with an iPod that's 128 gigabytes, right?
Yep.
My phone is 128 gigabytes.
Just for music, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's like 70 gigs right now on my.
But that's like the people who still cling on to the classic iPods with the ginormous hard drives.
Right. Yeah, I have one of those in the glass case.
Yeah, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, but that's it.
Is that the only call to action?
No, there's two more.
All right.
So I didn't talk about anything technical. If you're iOS or a developer and you want to talk shop, reach out. There's my email address there, my Twitter handle, my website. You can, there's like there's an email, say hello, email me thing on my website that you can use to get to me if you don't write this down. And then the third one is tell your friends. Don't leave this room without telling your friends at some point that there's a new music app made in Austin that's trying to get some exposure. And that's really it.
Really quick, can you just go back to that second screen?
Yeah, can you put your Twitter handle back?
There.
Thank you.
I have 3 Twitter handles, but this one is the one I use the most. I have all about 2 followers for my Jam On app Twitter handle, me and my wife.
Your hair's not that messy.
I know. I cut it.
Sweet, thank you so
Awesome,
much.
thank you.
And I'll be around for a while. My kids are home alone, so I have to scoot at some point, but I'll be around through the second presentation if you want to talk. There you go.
Awesome, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.
That was great.
Is it using your computer, Alex?
He is not, or you got that? He's not.
Great presentation.
Thank you. Where's that Apple Connect?
Can anybody refresh me with the Apple TV Connect on the iPhone? What's that? Yeah, no, on the iPhone. Where do you go
where's
in
the iPhone?
Yeah, where do you go
You
in
need to
the
be on the Wi-Fi first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let me get on the Wi-Fi.
That shows up, which is not the capital factual guess. It's the
Right, yeah, I got the other one.
Yeah, I think if you're on there, it'll show up.
Control center, right? Does anybody know where you go on the iPhone to get to the Apple TV?
Control center, I guess?
Control center?
Yeah, control center.
Anybody want to help me? Sorry guys, I know this sounds weird. I've done this before.
Did you swipe up on screen?
Yeah.
And does it give you the little airplane icon?
Be in the middle section, split on the rise with the airplane icon.
Just swipe. Oh, right, of course. It's right there. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry guys. Mirroring. Are we up?
There it is.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys.
All right, so my name's Nicholas Piontek. I'm in a co-working spot up here at the Capital Factory. I'm working on a music app as well. This is a mock-up of what we'd like to do. I'm a finance guy coming in to the music world. I was a musician in the past, and I was accepted at Berklee College of Music, but that was really expensive to do that route, so I decided to go down the finance path, and that kind of all stumbled and led me to do this startup here. So crowd jams, quick introduction. Crowd jams, what it helps us musicians to do is to network from your fans to your fans' friends, and then to crowdfund on all of them. We kind of created a way where the music discovery is from fan to fan sharing of the music, and then through that fan to fan sharing, if you discovered a band that you really like and you want to help crowdfund them, then you would through this app, and then that would help musicians get to the next milestone. The business model on the back end would be that the bands get to keep 100% of whatever they crowdfund, so long as they're willing or want to go to one of the recording studios in their town. So it also helps out the recording studios, the bands, and the fans for music discovery in their local areas. So when you log into the app, I'm just going to jump into it. I thought the last presentation was fantastic. I don't have a PowerPoint for you guys, so I'm going to present the app here. When you jump into the app, you have friends that are sharing music with each other. This is the first song out of your 5 songs that have been shared with you. If you look up at the top left-hand corner. Is that left-hand corner for you guys? Okay. This friend shared this song with you. She said, hey, check out this song, it's amazing. You're able to play the song, like it, dislike it, immediately share it with another friend. Hey, check out this song. They're at this venue or whatever it may be. You can send it. It'll pull up your contact list. You're able to check off the friends from your contact list that you want you to send it to. If they don't already have the app, it'll send them a link to download the app. It goes back to the front page again. You're able to add this song to your playlist if you want. And then once you want to discover the music, click on the background of the picture. It'll take you to the band's profile page. We could have a LinkedIn YouTube video here in the artist bio, or the artist can fill this out on their templated side of the band introduction, saying, hey, this is who we are, whatever. The next one is the events. We're thinking about linking in Ticketmaster or Eventbrite, where the bands are able to upload whatever ticketing services that they're using at that time for the local venues that they're going to. Here they're able to upload pictures, YouTube videos that they want to have in the app. And then the last one is their crowdfunding site, and we'll help them template out what they should crowdfund with, so that they're not using some of the money that they would use otherwise for recording studios, or we're looking at pivoting to touring as well. On the other side of the app, we're really focused on the fans. So we think that the fan side is really important. I know you guys can't see where I'm touching, which is kind of unfortunate. But here we need to kind of redesign a lot of it because you can't read this. This is really small print. But the idea is that the fans would also have a bio of themselves. They would also have their playlists that they have, and people are able to share and follow each other's playlists. The idea here is that Natalie Portman might have a playlist that she would have a lot of younger generation people wanting to listen to, so she may have her workout playlist here. And somebody like my girlfriend would want to listen to Natalie Portman's playlist, workout playlist, because she's a fan of Natalie Portman. And Natalie Portman would be building these playlists to make the Natalie Portman brand bigger. She's not a musician, but she's a fan of music, and that's what she's trying to kind of vibe out to her fans. Badges, every time Ashley, which is this user here, crowdfunds a band, she gets badges for that. So the more bands that she crowdfunds, the more badges she gets, and the higher status she gets inside this app. We're kind of pivoting from showing off how much you spend on music to question and answer sites. The reason why Stack Overflow and Quora are popular question and answer sites are because of the gratification that you get every time you answer a question. So if you go on those sites, they have a question open and you say, hey, this is the answer to your question. And then the response to that is, wow, you really saved my life. Thank you. I've been looking for this answer for a long time. You feel good about yourself and you're more likely to answer another question. So going on that, if you were to share a song with somebody and they're like, wow, this is my new favorite band, you feel good about yourself and you're more likely to share that song with somebody else. So we're really trying to take the music discovery and give it to the fans so that they're able to share it with their friends. And you're most likely to have friends that are going to be sharing similar music to each other. And the last page here is events. Every time Ashley purchases a ticket from a venue, those venues pop up here. So you can see all the past venues that Ashley went to, which would be pretty cool to see around America where she's gone. And she would definitely like to boast about that as well. After you become friends with Ashley, you're able to see her future events. You can say, hey, Ashley, let's carpool to the event, and you can purchase a ticket there easily. That's kind of the mock-up of what we have right now. I did the finances on the other side of it. It makes sense on the finance side on how we would monetize. We would monetize through, right now for the recording studios on the kickback. So if this person raised $10,000, let's say, we would have a set number of recording studios in their city. So if it was in Seattle, Austin, Atlanta, there'd be maybe 3 or 4 recording studios, and we are creating flow for the recording studios with bands that have raised enough money to create an album. And then the recording studios would kick back maybe 20 or 30% of whatever the crowdfunding costs are. But the band still gets a full $10,000 album at that recording studio. Thanks. I love questions.
What's the ticker up top there?
Yeah, so coming from a finance side, this looks like a Bloomberg ticker, if anybody knows what a Bloomberg ticker is. The idea here is that you have trending bands. So we're kind of making it kind of like a fun, playful thing where depending on the number of shares that the band has or the amount of money that they're getting in crowdfunding determines whether or not they're uptrending or downtrending within the app. And that's kind of that ticker up at the top on the homepage. So you can see, oh my gosh, my band is detrending, what's going on? I got to share the song, or kind of creates that kind of gamification of coming back to the app. Gamification kind of has a bad connotation, but where I was going with the question and answer sites, that whole model is a gamification, and we're definitely wanting to use that answer and feedback gamification for this app here. Yeah?
Do you provide any incentives for users as far as accumulating those badges? So like, for instance, raffling off like free tickets because you have X amount of badges. So
for sure.
It motivates users to, to stack up those badges.
Yeah, right now we do have room in our expenses to throw in something like that. We have a lot of money in promotions for music promoters to bring in bands. So if a music promoter brings in 50 bands, we'll give them $500 per band that's successfully crowdfunded X amount of money in the crowdfunding campaign. Then we could allocate some of our expenses to awarding the users for sharing the songs or crowdfunding themselves, of course.
For ticketing, you should look at Songkick. It's really good.
Awesome.
It's got a really good API. Next, are you gonna, for the bands that are coming on the site, do they have to be on your site, or can you pull it in from a Spotify? Or the whole idea is that this is going to be like a native site, and you're going to have a native player that's going to all be kind of the source of the music for this band?
We are looking for a CTO. If anybody out there programs in Swift, please talk to me afterward. So your question is, are we APIing in Spotify or somebody else for the streaming of the songs? Yeah, and I think that's an awesome way to do it. Right now, with our original platform, we're thinking just have the bands upload their music to here. They already have the MP4s or MP3s that they uploaded to SoundCloud, or that CD Baby has already sent over to all the other music sites. But yeah, we would like to be able to find an API from Apple Music or Spotify that would allow us to just stream that music back and forth, and then for us not to worry on the back end on paying the royalties. However, the way this is set up right now, we're doing worst case scenario, and worst case scenario is that the bands would have to upload their music themselves, and we would be our own music player, therefore having to keep up with the royalties for ASCAP, CSEC, and BMI. Cool. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I can see you're making a lot of assumptions in terms of what a user would be willing to act on. And have you done any sort of validation with bands, studios, users?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we kind of developed this for ourselves. We're like, my other co-founder is a baseball player, and he came to me and he said, Nick, I just want a way to share my favorite music or upcoming artists that I'm listening to with my other pitcher friends, and they're in the batting cages pitching, and they just want to share a song real quick and get back to pitching. And so he came to me with the idea, and I said, okay, well, how are we going to monetize that? How are we going to take it to the next level? And to fast forward to validation, that's why we have what we have right now, and then running around with this mock-up and showing the bands. The bands so far have given positive feedback. They all like it. The studios, I've reached out to many studios, and they're all on board for the 20 or 30% kickback on the business model that we have. Because the problem with recording studios nowadays is that there are a ton of them out there, and musicians are able to do it themselves. They can get Pro Tools. Usually what they're doing now is they're going to a friend that has Pro Tools, and they have a very small kind of setup, and they're doing it on the cheap. And that gets them their first digital music EP that they're able to share on Spotify or other networks. But we want to kind of give back to the studios and kind of get them more money from the musicians to be able to produce full albums again. But on the other side of it, the pains that I'm hearing from bands is, this is cool and all, but I don't really want to crowdfund for another album. I want to crowdfund for touring. And so what we're looking into now is how do we develop a way where we can syndicate a bunch of bands together that all crowdfund maybe $3,000 or $2,000 each into a kind of like a warp tour around Texas, where they're able to go to different venues and perform there after crowdfunding. And then at the end of it, net zero, but now have created all this kind of a ripple effect of fans and build on that fan network on here. Does that I don't know if I avoided your question or if I tackled it straight on.
I would say be aware of feature creep.
Yeah, for sure. I think we have a lot of feature creep in here. So what I presented was 30 pages long, and I need to get it down to 5 or 6, and need help with that too. But with the validation, our scariest thing right now is getting figuring out if the fans want to use this. So whether or not fans want to actually share music between each other is the scariest thing for us right now.
What is the MVP of this product? Is it the sharing or is it the crowdfunding?
You're killing me, man. I would, when people ask that question, they would just stop at what's the MVP, and I would say it's the sharing on top of the crowdfunding. So that's killer, right?
That stands for minimum.
Yeah, that's for minimum. But we would like to say kind of the sharing on the crowdfunding, we're taking two wheels and putting it together. When I gave my one sentence, what's already out there that we're trying to kind of combine, it's Pledge Music meets Snapchat. And this is kind of what we're trying to do here is people are Snapchatting songs between each other on a crowdfunding network. That doesn't answer your question, but the answer is that our minimum viable product, that's why it's so comprehensive, is that sharing network on top of the crowdfunding.
Well, it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing.
Yeah,
you can't have a crowdfunding app with no users, but if you have just users and it's not crowdfunding, then it's almost like just a regular music streaming.
So our response to that is that we're going with the chickens first. The chickens are the bands.
Correct.
And then we're going to ask the bands, this network will work for you if you can share your music with as many fans as you can. Because the bands are not only able to make their own band profiles, but their fan profiles, so they have individual people that have their individual profile as well as their band profile. And then on their individual profile, they're able to share their music with as many fans as they can, and that would be, we definitely need, Jason, was it? I'm sorry. Julian, I'm sorry. We definitely need some marketing help as well to figure out what the best way to approach that chicken egg question. Yeah?
What if a band wants to record with a studio
That's not on here, for sure.
that doesn't want to maybe work with you even, like, that?
We would, so that would be kind of a catch for us. It would be like, okay, well, you would probably be better off going with somebody else, which would be an awful thing for me to say, right? It's like, well, if you want to do that, I would suggest you go to Kickstarter or Pledge Music or another crowdfunding site, because we need somewhere around 20% margin to be able to operate ourselves. But yes, you can still use our site and build on your fans on here. But if you want to use a studio that doesn't want to cooperate with us, then we would just charge the 20%, and you can take, if you crowdfunded like $10,000, you can take the $8,000 and go to whatever studio you want to. But the margin is much, much larger than Kickstarter, and Pledge Music's around 15%. But that's much larger than Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which is a huge battle for us. So the way that we're approaching it is that if you want to go with one of the recording studios in your town, you can see the list, you can see what they're offering for different amounts that you're willing to raise. And if that fits what you want to do, then we would be the best model for you. And then you would be able to keep that 100% of whatever you crowdfunded to go to that recording studio to make that happen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, would they have the availability to just take the money and then give you guys 20%?
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just we would cut the 20%, but that's really high percentage. The other percentages are around 10%. Like,
so it's either they get a 20% discount to go to the studio, or it's a 10% take for you guys to compete with Indiegogo, Kickstarter, etc.
We could do it that way. Yeah, but right now we're just thinking about the 20%.
Are artists able to browse the local recording studios?
Everybody can see my passcode. I just realized that.
Are artists able, through the app, able to pick and choose what recording studio and browse what equipment is available on the recording studio?
Yeah, that'd definitely be part of it, and we would have a website for that. We wouldn't host it on the app, but they would be able to. We would ask the recording studio to put up their equipment that they have, what they're offering, and then for the musicians to be able to choose from there. But for recording studios to work with us, they would want to say, hey, if I'm going to work with you, I want to be the only recording studio in town. We'll be like, well, for us to be able to reach critical mass, we wouldn't be able to work with just one recording studio. So instead, our way around that is we would have one recording studio that specializes in country music, that specializes in indie rock, that specializes in rap, that specializes in different genres. And then as a band approaching that, you'd be like, oh wow, on studios, I want to go there because they specialize in whatever.
You have to negotiate.
Does that answer your question? I just want to make sure I'm answering questions before.
Do you have to negotiate certain price caps for for like the hip hop recording studio, because it doesn't leave any room for competition, so they might charge more than they should potentially. You see that happening?
Okay, so I don't understand your question. So maybe you wouldn't need to crowdfund as much for a hip hop studio as you would for a country because you have a bunch of instrument or musicians in maybe a country recording than you do in a rap recording. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that there's going to be several rap recording studios in a certain area, and if you select one of them, then they're potentially going to charge more because they're locked into your. Do you have a certain cap that they can only charge X amount? I guess that's my question.
No, it would be the recording studios. Since recording studios kind of go by hourly rates, we would ask them what kind of packages would you be willing to offer, and then from there we would find the most competitive based on reputation and equipment, and maybe reputation goes along with the mixer and producer as well. And then with those packages, display them on the website, and then the musician is able to choose from that which one they want to go with. Does that answer the question? So if you're just starting off, you're not going to crowdfund $10,000 for your first rap EP. You're going to crowdfund 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 to go with a mid-size rap studio to record your EP.
Right.
And that mid-size would create a package plan for you. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes, Julian.
The sharing, have you looked at Undertone?
Undertone, no.
It's another app that has been out there for a while. I don't know how well it's doing, but it's basically a network for sharing songs and stuff.
Yeah, there's another competitor out there too. It's called Music Messenger, and Music Messenger allows you to share like full albums with each other. They have it. I think it's API YouTube and API SoundCloud, and so you're sharing SoundCloud and YouTube links between each other within the app. But the API both YouTube and SoundCloud. But there's no crowdfunding that's connected to that. And the royalties would just go through YouTube and SoundCloud. Yes?
What's your money-making model for the touring? I don't know if you mentioned.
So this is kind of new. I've been here in the Capital Factory for about a month, maybe 2 months. This is my second month. And we came up with this like a few weeks ago. But the idea would be raising money through the venues and the crowdfunding from the musicians, and then housing, transporting, and feeding the bands through the touring, and then trying to create a margin off of that as well. So if you are a band, I'm a band, and maybe 3 other people in here are also bands, we would all raise around $2,000 or $3,000 to do a full tour of Texas. And then once we achieve that amount and we have a certain amount of fans, that would be good enough for the venues to host us there, because we are showing that fans will be there at the events. And then to cover the transportation costs, lodging, and food as well. But at the end of it, we don't net anything out of it. We net zero in money, but we create a larger ripple effect. And I think that bands are finding that touring is one of those big pains that they want to do, but they always are negative in touring. However, if we're able to create a way where they're able to tour more effectively through crowdfunding, and then go back on that network again, that's building on that fan base, because they're going to be using this platform to share their music while they're at the events. They'll be hosted by CrowdJams, hosted here, whatever. So the fans there will be using and sharing the music, and then hopefully that creates more of a viral effect on their tour than if they were just to do the tour themselves. What's your thinking on that? Because I'm kind of curious, like, do bands want to do that? I know for South by Southwest, it's extremely expensive for a band to come down to perform at South by Southwest. I think there's articles on it. It's like bands spend $10,000 just to get here and perform, and South by Southwest kind of gives them, you know, here, you can have a free ticket or we'll pay you $250 to perform, up to you, right? So now the band is like, they get a free ticket or they get a certain amount, which is kind of negligible, to perform. But obviously that creates a lot of kind of headway for them in a very almost saturated market. But if there's a major label there that likes them or something, that's why they're doing that. But it does out of pocket like $10,000.
I think South by is a unique kind of situation, but in general, I mean, putting a band on the road is always, like you said, it's typically a loser.
Yeah.
So any way you can do it so that the band can stay on the road and tour around is great for me, but I guess there's more question for you guys in terms of
how do we create that margin? Yeah, so through the venues, the crowdfunding of the bands as well, and trying to figure out what that margin is and how extensive that tour is. So depending on the amount of money the bands raise and how much the venues are willing to pay.
So it sounds like the size is like maybe like larger scale musicians, not musicians that are just starting out.
So we're really focused on starting off musicians. We want emerging artists that are trying to find headway and have been able to create this $3,000 in crowdfunding to be able to do this tour, you know, if that's the model that we go down. But we were really focused on That's Matt Pitcher. So when I first met him, I never changed his name. He's the baseball pitcher. So forevermore, he's Matt Pitcher. That's not his last name. Yeah, so the crowdfunding would help them be able to do a tour where they're able to gain that fan base that they would not have otherwise. Does that kind of make sense?
Sure.
Does that answer the question?
Sure.
Because I know I can be political sometimes, and I'm like, I answered it.
You mentioned Swift earlier.
Yeah.
Technology you're targeting.
Yeah. So why are we targeting
Swift.
Apple? Swift?
Well, Swift.
Swift is the programming language for iOS now. Yeah. Or Swift 2, right? We want to be on iOS because kind of the paying crowd usually has iPhones based on research. And we need fans that want to support the artists. So that's why we would want to find a CTO that knows how to program in Swift and is able to put a minimum viable product together for us. We'll do all the management, the sales, and getting the bands and recording studios or venues on board. But we definitely need to have the know-how of creating the app. Does that answer the Swift question?
Yeah, and just to comment on that, Swift is not the only way to program on iOS. So
Objective-C or,
exactly.
yeah.
That's why I asked. But,
Well,
as a side note, there's a iOS developer meetup next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll be there.
You can target, I'll be there too.
As just a general feedback, I think we talked about this before, but I would highly recommend just, it sounds like you're already doing a lot of customer discovery, but continue to do so because you have, I would say, maybe too many ideas.
Yeah.
And you're trying to, your big play is margins, and margins in indie music seems like a weird, it could work, but I would really encourage you before you continue to like build this out aggressively to really figure out what your sweet spot is. If your client is the local recording studio, then go that way and start from there and build it out instead of like going to the artist, to the fan, to the label, to the tour, to the ticket. Like it's too much. So I would just encourage to like figure out where, if you're trying to get, if margins is the play, figure out where you're gonna get the best margins and just go that way and start there and build out.
So I like your question, and we just hired a COO a couple days ago to help us kind of stay on that track. The crazy idea that we have for this is going from, we want to umbrella the music industry in this. So the bands get together, they crowdfund for their first EP or whatever album, then they crowdfund for their touring, they're able to do a tour. And then meanwhile, during all that activity, they're still building on their fan base within the application. That's the crazy idea in the future where we would like to build recording studios in every major city where the bands in those local areas are able to go to the recording studios. We absorb 100% of the crowdfunding that they do, but finance-wise, we're able to give them a larger album than they would have otherwise. If you had $10,000 and you went to Arlen Studios, you would not get the same amount of whatever you're trying to do with your album as you would have gone to CrowdJams, because we're going to give you a $15,000 or $20,000 album for $10,000. So that's kind of the stuff that we're looking at right now, is figuring out how do we umbrella this entire chain where musicians are not only able to crowdfund for their next album, but they're also able to crowdfund for the touring, build on the fans, and so on and so forth. So that's why we're kind of like all over the place. We're like, oh, well, are we going to be able to make traction and revenue this way, or are we able to make traction and revenue this way? Which one is the shortest path for us to get there so that we're able to succeed on the other ones as well?
So if that's the big goal, then it sounds like the starting point should be to make the artist super happy and comfortable with going to you as a starting point for their career.
For sure. I think more so the fans, because if the fans aren't going to be using it, then the artists are not going to be happy at all. Because if the fans are not going to throw up money for bands to if they're not going to crowdfund the bands are not going to be happy. That's why we're really ultimately focused on the fans to make sure that the experience for them is fantastic. Does that answer the question? Or is that?
Yeah, I don't even know if it was a question. I was thinking, but yes.
Comment. I give comments, not questions. Yeah.
I went to college, put out some music on SoundCloud and stuff, and got discovered by a big record exec out west in LA and stuff like that. So I understand the entire process of trying to put your stuff out, trying to do local shows, trying to get your fan base up. So I would really like to talk to you after this. But one thing I would say, I think Luis, to your point, really focusing on the artists because they're going to be your biggest marketers. Everybody who's an independent artist is really trying to get their word out. They're going to put your brand on their back to really expose themselves. If this is going to be like the go-to tool, like the Kickstarter or the pledge music, that they're trying to use. So,
yeah, I totally love that, and we're trying to make us not a one-stop shop. Where Kickstarter, I feel like, is a one-stop shop. You're going there to crowdfund for a certain amount, but once you reached out to all those people to crowdfund, wouldn't it be cool where you're able to still hold on to them and have them share your music and share them with their friends as friends?
I completely understand that, but one thing I would say is that if that is the case, then you would want the artist to really stay on the platform.
For sure.
Not just to promote it, but to also potentially collaborate with other artists. And I see that collaboration happening through the touring.
Yeah.
But just understand if there's any other aspects for the artists to kind of collaborate with other artists or to discover other artists that maybe are in their same genre that they could, do a track with that are local or something, along those lines, to really have them using the tool like almost as much as you would want the fan to use the tool. But we can talk about this later. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now. So.
No, I don't think that there would be any. So that was one of the funny things I discovered out here that I had no idea about was bands actually kind of network together and they create these kind of groups, and then they go to the venues and say, hey, look, all the bands here are going to perform at your venue tonight. You've got 5 bands that are going to perform, and we're going to do, you guys usually pay out $400 a night. We'll do it $300 per band, but we're all going to perform. And so the venue's like, fine, that's easier for me because I'm not having to look out for other bands. And they'll do that, and I bumped into a few of them like that, and it was kind of interesting because it was funny. You always have one guy that's in like all of the bands. He's like the bass player in all of them. But it is. I get what you're saying, and I think that there's huge networking power for the bands, the fans, everybody on this to kind of do features on each other's stuff and kind of upload that on their albums. And so you have maybe same songs on each of them. So it doesn't matter which band you're looking at, that same feature is there. Does that answer the question?
I really didn't have a question. It's just more trying to provide you some insight. I know I kind of overheard you back here, talking about different artists who might be able to want to sign on and utilize the app. And I've definitely been searching more of a collaborative tool, something that I can, I use SoundCloud, and there was a big community of different people who were using SoundCloud. And going beyond what SoundCloud could provide and just networking with other people and kind of having subcultures on SoundCloud that they would invite their friends to, being able to post on Facebook, different elements and bring people back to SoundCloud. And I feel like that's how SoundCloud really got its wings, So, and I saw it happen, and I was, maybe four years ago, it was really, that's really what it was used for. And I feel like crowd jams, if you can really tap into that artist who's like really trying to get that exposure and who's willing to blast crowd jams on every single social network that they have because it's their livelihood, that's really where I see this kind of, becoming viral and people going to it because they want to support that artist because they're friends with them or, they can leverage them in, some type of way, or they want to go out to one of their shows. And the fans, they're really going to come. If they support that artist, they're going to come to the platform. To put the fan first, when the fan has no idea who's going to be on the platform, and they're just, searching for a random indie artist. I think you really have to, they're going to find that one hook, the person that they know, and then from then on there, they kind of, it kind of, domino effect. And what you're looking for, and it might not be that you can go there first, but you might have to go there second, and you might get the same result, but just, kind of what Luis was saying, finding that sweet spot, or I don't know.
Alex. Yeah, he was mentioning chicken before the egg.
Exactly.
Nice.
Finding that sweet spot, and I just, just from being in that community, I know that these people are willing to do whatever it takes, to get their brand out there, and that, they'll take your brand with you just to do it.
For sure, and that really answers that chicken and egg question. We really think that if we can find those few bands that really want, because they're going to be promoting themselves as much as they can, and they'll be taking this brand on their backs as well. That kind of answers the chicken and egg question, because they're sharing that with their fans. They're like, listen to my new music, listen to my new music, listen to my new music. It's on Crowd Jams, and that's kind of how we're thinking. We need to target our marketing is towards the bands to share it to their fans. For sure, I totally agree with everything. And let's talk afterward.
Okay, I think we got it. It's
Awesome.
Already 8:40. Thank you very much. So I don't think we're gonna have enough time. Oh, Nick, make sure to take off because we don't want to. I want to see what's going on. I don't think we're gonna have enough time to go around the room because we only have 20 minutes. We want to make sure that we have enough time to mingle amongst ourselves. So go and have fun and meet each other. Next time we'll have some more time to introduce ourselves like we normally do, but I don't want to run out of time. So thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you guys next month. But hang out, let's all talk and.
Luis, Alex, rule at the Capital Factory. If you have like 3 guys in co-working spots, you can hold as many people here as you want.
What?
1, 2, 3.
Whatever. Yes.
So what I'm saying is that we don't have to be out of here at 9 o'clock or what the.
No, we actually do.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there was a bylaw that said okay.
Not if it's a whole giant classroom.
Yeah.
No, if it's a whole giant.
It's like you, us 3, and 2 other people.
No, we do. They have somebody whose job is to kick people out. That's not a job. She doesn't get to go home until we're out. So.
Okay.
And they're nice to us. So, anyways, thank you guys for coming very much, and hopefully we'll see you guys next month.
And get us in trouble.